Wow. Thank you, crazy Uncle Keith. So, little public service announcement before I begin. So today is a little bit of a workshop. We're going to take you through, I know there's agents, team leaders, and MLS executives here, and today we're going to take a brokerage from Houston. And I'll have Chance Brown come up here in a few minutes. So we'll do a little workshop, and hopefully enough to spark ideas of what you can go do. And I'm assuming that all of you have done enough with ChatGPT and AI tools to be dangerous. Is that fair? Okay. So little public service announcement. I flew back from India on Sunday morning, 2 days ago. So right now it is 12:30 midnight, a little after midnight. So if I sit on that couch, I'm a goner, okay? So when Chance comes up, I'm going to try to stay away from that couch for as long as possible. So I want to share a little bit about my AI journey, just to give you a little context. And by the way, how many of you played with the new ChatGPT image model that came out? That's a ChatGPT moment for image generation. This was generated with that, 10 minutes or less. So when ChatGPT first came out, November 2022, I dug in head first. And all through 2023 and 2024, every time I sat in front of a computer, I asked myself this question: can AI help me with this? And just that question mentally transformed my productivity to the point where it went to 35% or more in everything I do. So I want to share some ideas with you. And my goal here is for you to be inspired with some of the workshop stuff we're going to do. And you walk away. I know the theme of the conference is signal, find your signal in the noise. For this session, it's find your signal in the sea of signal. Because in AI, every day, there's a new signal. Just this morning, I got an email from Runway, which is text to video. You can generate 10 seconds of video with a text prompt now. So every day, there's a new enhancement. But I need you to find your signal so you can get productivity enhancements for you, your team, your organization. So that's the goal, okay? I want you to digest this for a second. How many of you have seen AI content and you know this is AI content? All of you have seen. You've seen it enough, right? Because I think Brian alluded to it earlier, that most people that are using AI are not learning the skills with AI. So whatever they're putting out is AI mediocrity, not AI genius. But today's workshop is to help you walk through that journey so you can actually get to AI genius to the point where when you use AI, nobody knows you're using AI. That's when you're doing well with AI, right? And that's a journey. I want to share my learnings from the 2 years, but all of you have sort of dabbled in AI a little bit. Today is about going a little deeper to gain the productivity enhancements to give you the gift of time. That's the whole purpose, right? Okay, so I love frameworks. I don't know about you, or acronyms, however you call it. So I'm going to give you 2 frameworks today as we go through the session. The first one is 4P and RISE, okay? Whenever you prompt AI, this is a good framework that'll help you no matter which AI tool you're using, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. I want to stick to ChatGPT today because the majority of you probably have dabbled in that. So prime is the idea of giving AI context. Role, input. Input is you give it more instructions. Like if your email is for homeowners, you need to give that information to ChatGPT so it knows that she's writing for that context. There we go. And prompt is the actual instruction you're giving AI, right? Which is, most people are familiar with prompting. So up until recent, last 2 years, the last 2 years, we've seen, there's prop tech people in the room, obviously, yes, prop tech people. There's a lot of technologists that work with AI, obviously. But what we're seeing in the last 2 years is that the most important coding language is now natural language, right? My daughter, you'll hear a little bit more about her as I finish. She's a marketing major. when she was going into college, she asked me, what should I study? I said, do anything but coding. Okay? I'm not saying there's no opportunities in coding, so she decided to choose marketing. Okay? But the point is, everyone, and I've seen 3 transformative techs in my lifetime, technologies. Internet, how many of you remember your first internet connection? CompuServe, $34.95 for me, you know? And then you had your first mobile phone at 2004. Well, my first mobile phone was a bag phone, which I had to plug into a cigarette lighter adapter for it to actually work. And now look at where we are with the iPhone. And how many Android users in the room? There's the 7. There are my 7 Android users in the room. But it doesn't matter which smartphone, right? We all have the same tech, but not everyone is capable with the tech. And we are now, in the last 2 years with AI, have come to what I call as the intelligence age. Everybody has it, but not everybody knows how to use it. Okay, so there's a serious gap in awareness of what you think is possible when actually is possible. So in this last 2 years, I've sort of come up with a new mission for myself, is make AI approachable and actionable for all of real estate. That's what all the things I do is driving that. So where do you begin? Now, if I were to ask you, how many of you feel like you've realized at least a 10% productivity improvement using AI? 20? See the hands. 30? Okay, the way you drive that number even higher is I would encourage you to start with what I call as a time audit. Do it for at least a week. Where do you spend your time? And rank yourself on these 4 areas. What tasks do you do that are repetitive? Now, if you do something for just 5 minutes a day, it may not be worth AI helping you. But if you do something 30 minutes to an hour a week, maybe you need to look at that, right? How about time consuming? That's a good one. The other one is data heavy. How many of you analyze data? There's reasons to do that, right? How about market stats? All of those things. AI does really well with data, right? So you need to look at that. And then finally, how many of you do things that drain your energy? One honest person, that's it, right? We all do things that drain our energy. I want this business to be fun, right? So find areas. So if you mark yourself, simple spreadsheet, start with these 4 things. This is where you begin. The way I get from 35 to 50 to 60 is to look at that and keep attacking tasks on that list that AI can help me with. Make sense? So here's the second framework. How many of you heard of AI agents, the concept of AI agents, right? You also hear about agentic workforce, digital employees, all those sort of are in the same umbrella. And the concept here for all of us to understand is if ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini is a universal AI assistant, smart, way smarter than anybody in this room. Would you grant me that? About a lot of things. It's universally smart. My second brain, I call it. My wife said, you don't need a second brain. I can't even handle your first, okay? But you get the point. It is a smart digital assistant, but it knows a lot of things, and AI agent is focused on one thing, okay? So I'll give you some examples, and we'll walk through an example or two, and then I'll bring up Chance, and we'll talk through the workshop case studies, and we should be good, okay? If my screen wakes up. Okay, so the concept of custom GPTs. There's several ways you could build AI agents, okay? You go back one screen, actually. Let's talk through this. So the 4 areas in this workflow are, in the framework, are first is workflow. Workflow is simply that if this happens, do this or do that, right? Something similar like automation, workflow. The next is AI model. ChatGPT is good at many things. It may not really be good at video. True? Not yet, as of this moment. Any AI talk, I have to preface saying as of this moment, because this evening it could change, right? So you got to pick the model based on what you want to do. Okay, so you got to have that. Integration. How many of you like to have your CRM updated or do other things? That's part of the decision making, right? And the training model, giving it examples of your work, all of those docs, you'll hear the word called RAG, retrieve, augment, and generate. The concept of providing your company data or your team data so it can actually produce output similar to what Brian said this morning. It went and searched all of the blogs that he wrote, and the voice was much closer to than what it was originally, right? Okay, so now let's look at a flavor of AI agents. I've built a ton of custom GPTs for my work. I'll share some samples. How many of you have used custom GPTs? Does that make sense? Okay, good. Some of you. Okay, let's walk through it. So there's 6 steps to building a custom GPT. And I'll show you an example, and then we'll talk to Chance and take it from there. So the biggest piece in these 6 steps is your instructions for your GPT. This is where the 4P and RISE really shines. Up until 2022, we lived in a world where we used to say there's an app for that. True? Now I say there is a GPT for that. Because if you go to your custom GPT store, in ChatGPT, there's over 3 million GPTs, public. Forget about the private ones that are not published, right? Some of the ones I use, I don't publish, but there's some that I publish under my name. So there's several good ones, but there's a lot of crappy ones, because anybody can publish them, right? So instructions are key to having a good GPT. Also, you look at enable capabilities. There's an acronym there that is WCDC. One is web access. Does your GPT need web access? You might say invariably yes. Let me present a case for it not to be true. So I built, the NAR settlement, August 14th, whenever it happened. So I built a custom GPT for coaching agents at our company on scripting. I didn't want it to go on the web and find a Reddit article about how to get coached. So my information I gave it was the 109-page NAR settlement document, okay, plus all of the best practices our company came up with, and I did not check the web. So the answers it gave was the resources I provided. Does that make sense? So as you start building these GPTs, just look at, invariably you'll select yes for web, but it may not be the case. C stands for canvas. Canvas is the ability for you to edit the output on the fly. Okay, how many of you are aware of Canvas? Okay, you'll see an example of it when we show you what we did for CBNA. D is DALL-E. Okay, up until like March 30th, when ChatGPT came up with the new image model, ChatGPT was good at a lot of things, but it sucked at images. Yes? Like you knew it was AI images, okay? But now it's real hard to know it's an AI image because of the new image model, okay? That's that. And then the C is code. If you're writing code, you want to check that box, okay? And you can do third-party actions. You can create. So one of the takeaways I would have for all of you is if you haven't built a custom GPT to optimize your workflow, go do one and learn the simplicity of doing that, okay? All right, so I want to walk you through. I have several, but I want to give you a simple example. I host a weekly podcast, Real Estate AI Flash, focused on empowering agents and thought leaders about real estate and AI. And since I record every week, I spend about 45 minutes to an hour prepping for the recording, because you got to know who interview questions, all of that, right? So I said, can I shrink the time on this? So I programmed this GPT with all the instructions I just talked about, at least the flow of it. And it is designed for me to give it the guest name, as much as I know about him, and it will come back to me with the output, and you'll see that on the screen, okay? So, turns out, my guest tomorrow morning, the episode drops, is our MC, Keith Robinson, okay? Every Wednesday it comes out. So here we go, right? That's my prompt, that's it. And it comes out with a guest overview, social handles for Keith, potential question suggestions, and podcast episode titles. I've since evolved this because I usually pick the title after the recording. So I now give it the transcript of the recording, and then it gives me a more apt title. Because the conversation could go anyway. It's very organic, my podcast. How long would that take me if I didn't have that? Yeah, I used to spend 45 minutes to an hour. So again, this idea of you taking your time audit and building custom GPTs, agents for your workflow, gives you the gift of time, right? Okay. On that note, go back. Help me welcome Chance Brown, the broker owner of CB&A Realtors. Chance, you got a big following there. A lot of people are clapping from over there. Are they your crew?
They are. About a fan club.
There we go, yeah. So tell us a little bit about your brokerage, Chance.
So CB&A, we're an independent broker here in the great state of Texas. We have about 700 agents almost in between Austin and Houston. And when we set our tech stack up, because it's pertinent to what we're going to talk about today, we set it up with an eye towards automation. And the idea was all the shit that agents hate doing, can we either just take it off their plate or save them a bunch of time at doing it? And so AI was kind of the perfect fit. However, I will say, I was hesitant at first because I felt like it was cheating. Like I was cheating on my own brain. And then that's just scary enough anyway. But I kind of pushed back on it because I wanted this idea of originality and everything else that was important. But what we've learned over time is the force multiplier is what it gives you back in freedom to be able to do the things that you need to do to build your business. So
for sure, yeah. So we took 2 use cases. Again, this is just concept for you to at least spark ideas in your brain as to what you could do for yourself, your team, your company. So the first one was most brokerages, recruiting and retention is a big one, okay? And our goal was to have, again, this is, as you can see, CB&A, agent attraction and retention. So the idea, and we'll show you what went into programming this so you'll understand the kind of detail you can put into it, was if Chance was going to meet an agent of a competitor, we want to give him very personalized talking points that are value add for his brokerage that cover the weaknesses of who he's going to go talk to, okay? And then a follow-up email, if they connected or not, if it's a phone call, et cetera. That was the scope of it. The scope can be anything you want, okay? But what goes into it, those are what we call as conversation starters. If you're new to custom GPTs, it just initiates the conversation. So the goal was this was going to be used by all of his managers, whoever recruits at their company, okay? So let me walk you through what goes into making this valuable, right? Clearly, the instructions are valuable, right? And we're glad to share the instructions with you, nothing to hide there. But more importantly is the knowledge, okay? So how many of you are familiar with deep research? Okay, that's not enough hands, so let me talk about what it is. Or it's just the afternoon.
If it makes you feel better, before I met Rajiv, I didn't either. So.
Well, so every large language model, Grok, Gemini, ChatGPT, all have deep research. If you have a Google account, it's free. Go do this like yesterday on some topic. So what we did was we ran a research project on Gemini, and we said, CB&A Realtors, he gave me his top 5 competitors, and we ran a research report, align their strengths with those 5 weaknesses, and generate a comprehensive research report. And within 7 minutes, it gave me a 30-page report. Okay? That went into that knowledge. Now, what else can you put there? You can put your own unique value proposition, maybe not published online, because all Google has, or ChatGPT, have things that are online. Make sense? So that's what went into it. And then here's a prompt for that custom GPT. Again, you, as a manager, if you're recruiting an agent from, let's say, Keller Williams, whatever it is, you say whatever you know about that agent that you're talking to, and that's the prompt as an example. We're looking to recruit John Smith. John Smith doesn't exist, by the way, but you get the idea. With JLA, one of your competitors. He did 10 million in volume in 2024 and is focused on residential in the luxury market. I made this stuff up, but you get the idea, okay? And here's what the output is. And it is very tailored to the strengths of his brokerage based on that research document, aligned with the weaknesses of the broker he's recruiting to act as talking points. You want to comment on that?
No, just the beauty of this is whether it's you're making that initial phone call and it's giving you the confidence to touch base on the things that you need to touch base on as you make it, or you're sitting in the interview and you're not going to just sit there and be a robot that goes through a script, but you're going to ask questions and you're going to have some pre-fed places that you can go with the conversation. But the best, this morning, literally as we're sitting in this room, one of my managers texts our leadership team chat group, and she's not here, she's at a different conference, and she's like, hey, I'm sitting at a table with a bunch of agents from ABC brokerage. What do we know about them? This is what we know about them and exactly what you should be talking to them about or asking questions about when you're at the table. And it spits it out in 10 seconds. It's incredible.
And how many of you use the voice mode in ChatGPT? That's an underutilized, amazing thing you should just fire up after you leave here, okay? So I was telling Chance that as you're going into a recruiting appointment, you don't even need to do this on a keyboard. You can fire up the custom GPT and start voice mode and simply talk to it, and it will give you those 5 things based on your input. We can all talk, hopefully. It's the lowest common denominator and easy to embrace technology when it's that simple, okay, right? So this was the first case study we did, okay? And we're going to build on it, but you get the idea, okay? The next one was, I think in 2025, you should be, if you're an agent, brokerage owner, leader, if you have a savvy client, they're going to sooner or later ask you, I'm hearing all this talk about AI. How are you going to use AI to maximize the exposure to my home? Going into a listing appointment, right? So what we decided to do was build a custom GPT for listing appointments, okay? Again, concept. And the idea was you give it an address. Obviously, you're going into a listing appointment. You might not know everything about the home, but whatever you know about public record stuff, you enter it, and the goal of this GPT was to write 3 flavors of descriptions: professional, luxury, engaging, etc., a YouTube script, and a 30-day marketing plan for their home that the agent could edit. That was the goal, okay? This is one of the most popular things that our agents use at our company now, because it's a starting point. It's not, AI is not your only brain, it's your second brain, remember, right? Human is always in the loop, so you get a chance to edit and make it yours. So we enter this, and this comes out, okay? So should roll there, yeah. So as that rolls, you'll see different and very well written. It understands fair housing. How many of you know the 2023 dictionary.com word of the year? Anyone know? No, it's not fair housing, Lucy. Fair housing, no. What do you think, 2023? So ChatGPT came out November 2022. So I want you to think about what is the word of the year in 2023? What's that? Hallucination, thank you. Who said that? Well done. Now, hallucination is not a new word, right? But it just got wildly popular because AI lies with confidence. Because it's a prediction engine. Right? It's just predicting what you want to hear. Most of the time it gets it right, but not always, right? So we've written instructions for this to go through and not violate fair housing. All that is in the instructions, okay? And here's, as an example, go ahead.
But also, because I heard 2 or 3 people say this, boasts and nestled, just tell it not to put that in there.
Delve.
Tell it to not use those words.
Delve.
Yeah, delve. Ooh.
Game-changing. Just ask ChatGPT for the top 10 words you're really using and put that in the custom instructions to never use them, okay? Including emojis. How many of you are tired of emojis now? Suddenly we got very tired of emojis, right? Okay, so you see the 30-day plan. Now this may not, if you're an agent, you may not do Pinterest number 22. You just may not, okay? Because it's something that's spitting out. But that's Canvas on the right. If you're not aware of that, this output comes out in Canvas. So I can simply click Edit, highlight 22, and change it to something I do, and it becomes mine. Make sense? Right? Now, what we programmed it to do was that, but you can program it to customize your workflow based on the 4 things we talked about, your time audit. Make sense? So how many of you remember, how many of you know the company Moderna? They're one of the success stories with implementing AI. They've built 700 custom GPTs for their entire company. I just want you to think about the size of the drug company, all the regulations, compliance they got to go through. So if they can do it at that level, nothing's stopping us from doing it, okay? And I believe AI is truly an affordable leverage. I was talking to some people at lunch today. I spend about $200 a month on my AI's tech stack, and I've gotten 35% plus productivity enhancement. When was the last time you could have made that statement? Right? So I think you can innovate faster, you can do some things, but I need you to focus on your signal in the sea of signals. Right? There's a lot going on with AI. Okay, so anything you want to add to that?
Just a couple things. So first of all, this is great. Like you said, if you're sitting in somebody's living room and they bring up AI and you can open this and show it to them, you win. You just win because nobody else is going to be able to do it. Number 2, to me, if you're a busy professional in this industry, at some point in your life, you have said, I wish there was another one of me, or there were more hours in the day. How long would it take you to create this on your own? And how many listings are you going to take this year? And do a little bit of multiplication there, and you're probably earning back 2 or 3 days of productivity. 2 or 3 days back into your year by just letting this take 15 seconds. And then the last thing I'll say, because this is important, at least in my market, I'm from Texas, so we don't speak English the best anyway. But I also happen to live in the most diverse city in the United States, in Houston. And so we have a lot of agents who English is not their natural language. And so their ability to be able to level the playing field and compete with people who idiomatically are natural speakers is game-changing, because I had to say game-changing.
You had to. You had to get it in there.
Had to get it in there.
Because we told ChatGPT not to.
Right.
All right. So as we talk about AI agents, as we sort of slowly wind down here, I want to give you a simple, no pun intended, by the way, because this app name is Simple AI. Only available on iPhone, sure, coming for Droid. So the other day, I wanted to get a pedicure. So I had Simple AI downloaded. So I gave it the prompt, and I said, find me a pedicure between 4 to 6 p.m. on a Friday, connected my personal Google Calendar, gave it the price range of my pedicure, what I want to pay for it. It made all the calls to up to 5 spas. When it found the appointment, it booked it, set it on my calendar, and I did not make the call. Now, before you flip out, okay, it gives you a transcript of each call, and it does not make the call as this is Rajiv calling. It'll say this is Jimmy calling on behalf of Rajiv, who's looking for a pedicure appointment. I just want you to think about the mundane things you do. I love going to the spa. I hate making the calls. Does that make sense? So again, I'm not promoting this app. I just want you to get comfortable with AI agents because they're here, okay? So the next time you need to order pizza, just prompt it, okay? It'll get it to your house without you having to make the phone call and order the toppings, the whole thing. If you connect your card, Lucy, Simple AI will charge your card. or the pizza store will charge your card. How many of you remember the recent fires in California? Remember that? The CEO of this company shared not a fun story, but an interesting story of use of simple AI. Apparently, milk was really hard to find during 2-3 week period. So a user of simple AI basically typed the prompt in, call as many grocery stores as possible within the radius of my house and find me the first one that has milk. It found it. 11th store it called had milk. So my point is, you can use it to prank your friends. I wouldn't recommend that, okay? But it's a great way to kind of embrace what's here already, right? How many of you would like to have a personal assistant that does all the mundane things for you, just phone calls? This is going to get better. They're launching a business version of this. So again, use it, test it out, get comfortable, okay? All right. So I believe this is some of the brightest people in our industry are right here in this room. And as far as AI adoption is concerned, I believe many of us are probably at the AI enthusiast, maybe an AI influencer level. So let's talk through what this is about, okay? Because I think this is important. AI enthusiasts are those that basically ask the question, how can AI help me with my personal productivity, right? And voila, it's back. And as you start to gain the 20-30% adoption and productivity enhancements, you start to move into AI influencer. And an AI influencer asks the question, how can this help me and my team? They start to move in that direction. And the AI catalyst is the final stage. This is someone that is influential in transforming the company you work at, ground up, okay? It's not where you are today that matters. Make a note of that. The question is, where will you be at the next summit? Because AI is moving at an exponential rate, and most of us tend to learn at a linear rate, right? So it's just a little challenge that I want you to go through and kind of pursue it. And here's a framework I use to sort of see where you are in the mastery. AI favors the curious. Marketing favors the bold. If you're not curious, I've tested a lot of things. They fail quite a bit sometimes, but some really succeeded well that I've embraced into my workflow. So your curiosity gets you a level of understanding, and then you know, hey, can I integrate it into my workflow and make it so that it transforms what I do in my business, okay? So that's the question you got to ask yourself. Where will you be next year? A year from now, right? So I want to end with a story that has been very influential for me the last several years. What's a presentation without a story, right? So this is Ryan Estes. If you know him, you know him, but he's a very powerful keynote speaker. And that is Lily. She is the barista at the Minneapolis airport. So Ryan, notice the height difference? Okay, I saw the light, I saw your eyes. So Ryan came to speak at a keynote that I was at in 2010, and he shared the story of Lily. And on Christmas Eve, can you imagine how busy a Starbucks at a major airport is on Christmas Eve? So Ryan goes and orders his usual drink, and Lily, unlike all the other baristas he's ever been at, was very in the moment asking Ryan, hey, where are you going? Ryan says, I'm going to see my mom in Cleveland. And he's like startled. How are baristas so involved? So he asked Lily, how come you're involved in your customers when you're simply pouring coffee? So Lily snaps back and tells Ryan, that's where you're mistaken. I'm not pouring coffee. I'm pouring happiness into people's lives. So the next time you go through the Minneapolis airport, I just don't want you to fly through it. I want you to stop by at my Starbucks and say hello to me. So that story stuck with me, right? And this picture, by the way, is from 2024. I've since connected with Ryan. I'm writing something with him, so he shared this picture with me. So for 14 years, Ryan goes, gets a Starbucks drink from Lily, and she's still a barista at Terminal D. So it's not what you do, it's how well you do it, right? So that lesson stuck with me. 3 years ago, my youngest daughter came to me and said, Dad, she was very happy, Dad, I got a job at the local Starbucks. So you guessed it, I sat her down, Lily effect. So a little public service announcement, if your kid works at Starbucks, the parents get a free cup of coffee. However, I did not tell my daughter I was coming, and I knew she was working the window. So I said, I'm just going to keep rolling my camera and go pick up my drink, and I want to see if her face emerges with a smile or not a smile. So this is her. So, and she won a Starbucks Happiness Award, and she is currently a sophomore at Florida State. And obviously the story is personal to me, but the real reason I want to share the story is this. The main reason we embrace any transformative technology, if I were to ask you to a person, I think all of us would like to do more with our clients, enhance our relationships, than less. True? The reason we are not able to deliver sometimes is because we have too much on our plate. And when you have too much on your plate, you're not present, although you're present. So my goal for AI is really to do this, is to help you automate the ordinary, clear your deck so it gives you the gift of time, so you can personalize the extraordinary, which are your client relationships. And if you do that, it will transform your business, and it will transform your career. Thank you for listening.